the start of the second game for the day, which is the under-18 women's New Zealand Obsidian team in white against the under-18 women's Australian A team in black.
So how much data did we burn?
It looks like the refs are all in the water and ready to go. Just sending the whistle now for the last 30 seconds before we start playing. So far, I think the Australian women are down in this matchup. They've played each other once before, but it was a pretty close game, if memory serves. Looks like both teams have all their players in the water. Everyone else is in the sub-bench. They're all ready to go. No last-minute chats necessary. One of the refs still putting his fins on, but the other
just leave it at that.
two appear ready. And we're off for the second game of the day. Very tight to the puck. New Zealand just get a bit of control, but Australia curls around, passing to their backs. Big flick off to the left-hand side for Australia as they swim it off to the wall. And it looks like someone's ripped it around. It looks like the New Zealand team actually taking control of the puck there and sending lots of support. No, it was one Australian surrounded by New Zealanders, actually. Both teams playing in quite dark favors tonight. And it looks like New Zealand with the numbers driving down that wall. Possession gained by the Australians, though. Has she been able to find support? There it is, driving straight back up that wall into the horde of New Zealanders waiting for her. And New Zealand trying to push off on that 45. Looks like the Australians are going to maintain possession though. New Zealand smashes down the wall. And it looks like the refs have called its obstruction against New Zealand. First ref call of the game. Australia now setting up. Not sure who's going to be taking this for Australia. Looks like it might be number 13. Sounds wrong. Australia doesn't have a number 13. Unfortunately, the mask strap getting in the way of her number there. Couldn't quite see who it was. Australia taking it out wide straight away, making quite a bit of ground there. But New Zealand taking it again, driving down that far wall away from our camera. Nice clear pull today. Looks like they've managed to get a bit of a clean. In the interim, and Australia, big switch. The flick goes through it. It looks like she's found support on the outside. The Australian winger there curls into the centre, looking for a centre forward. And it looks like they still have possession. A lot of New Zealand's on the bottom. They're not making much headway now. Australia pushing down that side wall close to the camera. Big swerve comes off. Not sure if Australia still has possession. Looks like it might have spilled to one of their backs. And Australia pushing across the face of the goal tray. And a big push in from that Australian winger. Looks like there's enough New Zealanders down to defend though. Will the reload be enough? It doesn't look like it. It looks like New Zealand successfully defended for now. Off onto the wall, but very close. Probably the closest we've seen yet this game. And Australia pushing again. Looks like they won't be able to get it close enough to the centre of the goals. Just pushed off onto the back wall. And back onto that side wall. We'll see if New Zealand can get enough numbers to push it out. All the refs seem happy. A lot of action on the bottom. Often that leads to a ref call, but none yet so far. And New Zealand are there just holding her in the corner, making sure she has support before they start that drive up the wall. And here they go. Off they go up the wall. Looks like Australia unable to contain it in that corner. We'll see if they want to rip it around. And here they go. Big rip from Australia, but shut down very quickly by that New Zealand centre forward. New Zealand take possession of the puck, swimming at 45 degrees towards the far wall. Bit of a slow flick, but New Zealand do get there first. And New Zealand now breaking down that wall. Great flick into the middle. Looks like they've beaten the last back. Bit of a fumble by the New Zealand player, and it's just too much. The last Australian back just gets there in time. If only that New Zealand girl had managed to pick up that puck swiftly, she probably would have been able to score there. Bit of bad luck there for New Zealand, but Australia, great work. That last back never giving up, just making sure she's swimming into position, even if it looks like New Zealand are going to score. And it pays off for her. She saves that goal. And Australia have cleared it out to that far wall now. And it looks like they're now holding it in the corner and waiting for their numbers, see if they can push out. New Zealand very close to scoring a goal there. And they're pushing it all the way up the back wall. Not sure if Australia has numbers. It looks like it's gone in. The refs are calling a timeout. And yeah, New Zealand, lots of numbers up that back wall. Might have been too much for the Australians to defend. Of course, it's possible there was a bit of gloving or chopping up that back wall, which is why the refs are having a chat. hard to tell what's going on. And the refs have called no goal. It was chopping up that back wall for New Zealand, and Australia managed to keep that one out a bit longer. They'll get to take a free now from 3 meters out from the back wall. We'll see what they want to do with this. Taking the puck now. They've flicked it fairly central, and it looks like New Zealand's got possession. They're pushing it back against that far wall. Australia, I think, got a bit of possession, but couldn't find someone to flick to. And New Zealand again, big 45 drive. The last Australian back's down. And a flick's gone in, but it looks like it's been stopped by the Australian back, and the puck's pushed back out to the corner. Very close to another goal there for New Zealand, but it looks like Australia manages to just stop that on the lip of the goal tray. And the puck goes all the way across the goal tray. New Zealand unable to hammer that one in as Australia switches very deep in their own defence. Australia now pushing up this close blue wall. It looks like New Zealand managing to hold them. Lots of New Zealand numbers down at the moment. They've got through on the inside, but it looks like Australia's going to stop them. New Zealand girl there on the wing opting to curl and look for her reinforcements, and it looks like they've managed to get enough numbers to get it right up to the goal tray. The referees aren't signalling yet, so it must have been cleared by the Australians. And that's a call from ref Angus, who called gloving against the New Zealand team down that back wall. And once again, very close for New Zealand to score. And the New Zealand team's coach has called timeout. That's Coach Bo calling a timeout for his team. Obviously has a bit to say about the way that New Zealand have managed to get it up there, but maybe not too happy with their conversion rate when they get it that close to the goal.
Too much about it. What?
Not sure whether that's a numbers problem for New Zealand or whether they just need to hold on to the puck a bit longer.
This is still the first half.
Great defence from the from the Australian team. Either way, though, and really a fair bit of back and forth. New Zealand have a slightly better time of it so far, but the Australians definitely also gotten very close to that New Zealand goal tray. Score, of course, is still 0-0 in the second game of the day here. New Zealand under-18 women's Obsidian against the Australian under-18 women's A team. And this is going to be an Australian free puck after this timeout. And there we go. Looks like they weren't quite ready to take it, but that's fine. You get a couple of seconds before the other team gets to start swimming at you. They've taken to the middle, and it looks like she wants to push through the middle there. So New Zealand is very ready for that. Australia appear to have a slight advantage on the wall here, but New Zealand turn it around, and they're pushing it back down that far wall towards the Australian defensive D.
We're just having a read there.
Very good pressure on the wall here, these New Zealanders, managing to rack up 2 or 3 bodies just to push the puck down past the Australian defence. Australia thwarting that attempt at a 45 drive on goal, pushing it back on the wall, but New Zealanders are here again, and one New Zealander sneaks around the outside and manages to push it past that Australian defender, finish it off by 2 New Zealanders in the middle. That could be the first goal of the match.
Yep.
New Zealand, number 11. Sophie Lawler scoring that goal for New Zealand on the inside. Great work from her teammate, bringing it all the way around the outside and getting that puck past the last Australian defender. And Sophie Lawler is going to finish off that goal for New Zealand. Great work by the New Zealand under-18 women Obsidian team. And just 8.5 minutes left in this first half after that first goal scored. And the refs seem ready, the players seem ready. They're off again. New Zealand slightly faster to the puck this time, flicks it straight through the middle of the Australians. Australian fullback, good kill to gain possession, finds her off half, and who swims to the wall. Very much under pressure though. The New Zealanders pushing her right back towards the corner as she desperately swims to try to find safety. New Zealand look like they've got a bit of a drive going, but Australia might have just taken it back. It looks like it's coming a bit closer to the centre of the pool. No, Australia managing to push it off the wall, and the refs have called a chopping foul against Australia. Looks like they were calling an advantage for a while, and as Australia brought that out to the wall, they've called that up and said Australia's going to have to sit back on their goals. Late sub coming in for Australia. Very risky doing that this close to the goal tray, but it looks like the refs are going to take their time and let them have enough time to get back. Everyone down at the bottom for Australia now pushed all the way back to their goal tray. The New Zealanders coming in. Can't quite see what happened. Refs Finn in the way there. But it looks like Australia's managed to contain it quite a way out from the goals. And a big break there from one of the Australian players. Looks like she's found a bit of room on the outside. New Zealand is managing to get there in front of her, overtake the player swimming with the puck. And the Australian curled around. I'm not sure if she managed to find a halfback there. And here we go, big 45 by Australian halfback, rips it back into the centre, and back out onto that far wall. Flick goes through into the centre, and it looks like they're managing to bring it all the way across. New Zealand steal the puck and complete that switch for them, though. New Zealanders on the other side, but then there's an Australian there ready to see if the pass comes through. Looks like the flick did come through. The Australian halfback managing to rip that off. Wants to bring it straight back into the centre. Maybe could have passed to her fullback there, but opts not to do so. And the New Zealanders now, lots of bodies on that wall, driving back down in their offensive half. And they've driven it right under the Australian sub-bench. And it looks like they want to keep going. Oh, nice attempt there. New Zealand under 18 lady wanted to pull a swerve on the outside. Australia just ready for it though. New Zealand now in the corner, pushing down that back wall. Australia maybe not able to hold this. It looks like they've pushed it all the way into the goal tray. And they have the refs signalling a goal. Australia very sloppy on the rotation there. And that's a goal from number 2 from the Obsidian team. Number 7, sorry. I missed an entire hand of one of those referees. Number 7. Emily Cronfield scoring that goal, pushing it all the way down the back wall. Australians just not being able to get the body position to stop her though. Very unfortunate for Australia, but great work from that New Zealand defence. Looks like they're really gaining a head of steam here as they're pushing it into the Australian defence. And the Australian team has called a timeout. The score is now 2 to the New Zealand Obsidian team, 1 for the Australian A team. Sorry, 0 for the Australian A team. No goals scored yet for them, as Coach Chris has brought them all over into the playing field. They're all ringing up for a quick word, maybe letting them know that they need to get down in defence. There's no defence like having all 6 players down. New Zealand content to leave their 4 on the sub-bench, however. Coach Bo just swimming over very casually, wants to talk to his 6 in the water. Just 20 seconds now left in this timeout. And it looks like all the refs are ready. One of the refs actually has gone over into the sub-bench area. I'm not sure what that's about. Maybe wanted to grab a drink of water, it looks like, from one of the helping officials. And they're off again now. Just checking my mic's turned on. They're off again now. And it looks like Australia getting their first, flicking straight into the center of New Zealand, driving through. And she's maintained possession, passed it back to her back, also going to go through again into the middle. Very confident in their driving play, the Australians at the moment at least. And they just keep bringing it back in the middle. Enormous spearhead by the Australians. Can't quite manage to get the reload on the lip of the goal tray, and New Zealand managed to drive it out. But good offensive attack there by Australia. Really looked like they had a lot of presence on the bottom there. New Zealand in the corner now, looking to push it out. And it looks like they've managed to do so, but Australia looks like they're driving on the 45 here, straight into the middle. Not interested in going around the New Zealanders. On the outside now, Australia rips it back into the middle, looking to reload. But New Zealand... Oh, Australia gets the puck down the back wall. Stopped by New Zealand. Big knockdown by New Zealand, but it looks like they might be able to push it into the goals. We'll see if the referees think that was a gloving. But Australia doing a great job there, just continually reloading their players. Number 12 from Australia there, pushing it down against multiple New Zealand players. Maggie Biffin, the vice-captain, really dominating that back wall just for the couple of seconds that she needed to. And the score's now 2 to the New Zealand Obsidian team and 1 for Australia. Really, Australia playing around that goal tray. Took them a lot of attempts to get it in, but they had the numbers and they had the presence of mind just to keep pushing it in. New Zealand now looking for a bit of vengeance. They are very quick to the puck and have taken it straight wide over to the wing. Looks like they might have managed to get around the first Australian winger there, but the halfback might be able to stop them. Good little push from New Zealand, is pushing it about 2/3 of the way down the court, and they're just going to keep pushing all the way into the corner by the looks of it. And we have had a couple of New Zealand goals scored so far, just straight down that back wall, so the corner definitely not a safe place for this Australian defence, especially if their rotations aren't quite on point. Everyone down in the corner now. Not quite sure who has possession. Looks like Australia rotating well, though. It's going to be hard. The referee's calling advantage. Not sure which team that's for. And New Zealand pushing it very hard. And it looks like the referee was calling advantage against New Zealand. And it was a chopping call. So New Zealand now pushed back. Australia able to take a free away from their goal tray. Number 12 from Australia, they're taking that free puck, Maggie Griffin. And she's flicked it wide, really looking for that side wall, seeing if she can get a drive down there. New Zealand flick into the centre, and Australia look like they managed to get a bit of a break here. It looks like they chopped down that flick, and they've gone into the middle 45. New Zealand, no, it is Australia. Australia, big swim. Can she maintain possession? Yes, good reload to that halfback. Halfback tries to push through, but New Zealand, great work staying down there and defending. Not going up when she was curled off by that Australian winger. The referee's got his arm in the air, and they're calling chopping against the Australian team. Might have been that halfback coming through, very eager to knock through that New Zealand defence. Number 5 for New Zealand here, taking this puck and just swimming it straight off onto the wall. Olivia Houston, the captain. Just swam it right onto the New Zealand sub bench, see if they can get some fresh legs in. Australia now ripping it off the wall, but a great double team by New Zealand is going to keep the pressure on. Australia managed to get it out. Looks like the fullback there, flicking it off to the winger. New Zealand intercept that pass, and looks like they're going to complete the switch for Australia. A very offensive drive there from New Zealand. Australia desperately trying to get down and rotate behind to stop this drive down the wall from New Zealand. Looks like they're going to be able to stop it about 2 meters off the back wall there. And we'll see if either team want to bring them in the middle. Very risky, of course, for Australia, bringing them in the middle this close to their own goal tray. New Zealand probably a lot more eager to do so, although they seem content just to push it all the way into that corner. Australia now, lots of numbers on the surface, but it looks like they've got enough to push it out at least a couple of meters. A lot of back and forth here, both teams trying to work that wall as well as they can. The referee's calling advantage, not sure who for just yet. Doesn't look like either team's gaining much advantage though, as it's just going up and down. Yep, the referee's decided as well. Looks like it might be against Australia here. Yeah, it is. It's an obstruction call against Australia. They're going to be pushed right back against their own goal tray and see if they can defend a New Zealand free this close to their goals. Everyone on the bottom for New Zealand and Australia are a bit slow to get down, but it looks like they'll have enough time. New Zealand flick's gone in, but it looks like it's been caught very early and just defended. Referee calling advantage. It looks like he's happy though. The New Zealanders, lots of pressure down this wall. And that's full time. It doesn't look like the New Zealanders managed to score there. Good work defending the last couple of seconds there from Australia. And at half time, the score remains 2 to the New Zealand under-18 women's Obsidian team, 1 for the Australian under-18 women's A team. As the team swap sides here, New Zealanders definitely seem to have a bit of a cheer squad going on, looking over the New Zealand attacking goal. Unfortunately, New Zealand not able to get that last goal in the last couple of seconds, but the cheerleaders don't seem too upset by that, giving a nice cheer for New Zealand as the players swap ends. New Zealand here all gathered around their coach, waving his finger in the air, not sure what he's talking about, maybe something about curling and rotations, who knows. Australia also all the way around their coach on the opposite side of the pool. Refs having a bit of a chat as well. Deck refs come over to talk to the in-water refs. Not quite sure what they're talking about. And we can see the next game's team starting to warm up here. Looks like the New Zealand women. That's probably going to be the under 18, the under 18 diamond team for New Zealand, the women's team. And I imagine they'll be playing against the under 18 B team for Australia after this game's over. Just double checking, yeah, and that's right. The under 18 women's B team will be playing white, and the New Zealand under 18 women's diamond team will be playing black after this next half of hockey here. Let's see, everyone's still chatting. Coach obviously has a lot of words of wisdom to impart. Neither team ready to go back to their sub-benches now. Referees look like they're just starting to swim out in the middle. 50 seconds left before the start of the next half. In the second game of the day here in Tasmania, the 2016 Trans-Tasman's age group games. And finally, it looks like the refs are ready. None of the players ready to go back to their sub-benches. Both coaches obviously have a lot to say. The whistle's gone for the last 30 seconds, and finally, everyone looks like they're ready to play again. Bit of cheering and clapping coming from the New Zealand team. They're obviously happy with the first half. It's been a hard fourth half for them actually, but 2-1. Can't be too upset. As we count down for the first strike of the second half. New Zealand just getting to the puck first, but Australia managed to spoil it off her bat. Looks like she's managed to spill it to the left-hand side, pushing all the way to that left wing. A big ruckus on that wall there. Lots of energy from these two teams, obviously, after a nice 2.5-minute break. Australia just getting the end of that switch. Looks like she's got lots of room. Opts back into the middle, though, and finds the centre forward. Australia still got a bit of possession, but looks like, no, still got possession. New Zealand there taking it. Bit of a botched flick from the Australian halfback, maybe knocked down by a fin. And New Zealand making a lot of room down this wall. Australia trying to curl it off her. Doesn't look like she'll be able to, though. New Zealand, 45 back in the middle. Curls around. Australia ready there with the steal. And Australia pushing on the 45 back onto that wall. Not interested in going into the middle this close to their own defense. New Zealand down the wall again. Australia looked like they managed to bottle it up, but fresh New Zealand players just keep coming down that wall. And Australia looking across the pool there. Bit of a switch. New Zealand look like they've intercepted it though, and they're driving right in the centre of the goal tray. Australia not able to keep it off. The puck skids off the Australian bat into the goals, but the referee's calling it a no goal. It looks like that punch came off a New Zealand glove. That final punch into the goal tray. Very bad luck from New Zealand. Really working that puck around the goal tray, trying to find a point of weakness that the Australian team hasn't managed to cover quite as well. And it looked like they'd found it there for a second, but that punch, very strong, but unfortunately it doesn't count if it comes off your glove. And Australia, number 12 again, taking this puck straight out into the middle of the pool, really wants to get it away from that big pack of New Zealanders that are ready on that hoist wall. Looks like they've gone all the way to the far wall here, and they're trying to get a bit of a drive up there. Both teams look like they want to bring it back into the middle though, but under their own terms. Other team trying to bring it into the middle, and it just gets punched back onto the wall. New Zealand, bit of a drive, but the referee's got his hand in the air, chopping against the New Zealand team. That's going to go against them just about in the middle of the pool here. Looks like it was against number 5 from New Zealand, that chopping call. And they're being pushed all the way back. Australia setting up their line just shy of the middle of the pool here. And Australia looks like they just want to take it straight to that line of defence. New Zealand looks like they've got the better of it though. Australia rip it off, but New Zealand's got the woman over the top. Looks like she might get a bit of a breakaway here. Will she take it all the way? No. Australia just managing to get the tip of that bat over the puck and push it over onto the wall. New Zealand girl there looked like she had a couple of centimetres on the Australian, but of course, very hard to swim at top speed holding a puck and knock it over the bobble. New Zealand now pushing into the Australian team's corner. They've really managed to capitalise on that break of the Australian free puck. It looks like Australia's going to keep it out for now. New Zealand really looking down that wall. Australian players not really that flat on the bottom, but it looks like they managed to keep it out again. New Zealand very close to putting that one in. Brought it out just over the corner of the goal tray and trying to tap it in. The referee's calling advantage. And it looks like it's gone in. We'll see which way the referee is calling. Yeah, it looks like that advantage call was for New Zealand. So when they put it in, very happy with that. New Zealand number 4. Finishing off that goal, Eddie Grant for New Zealand. And the score now 3 for the New Zealand Obsidian team, 1 for the Australian A team. This game, so much pressure down that back wall for New Zealand. And Australia really struggling to get control of that corner and push it out. Looks like Australia will get to this strike first, and once again tries to swerve through the middle. Maybe didn't draw the New Zealander enough, but it looks like she was ready for it. The puck appears to have spilled in Australians' advantage, and they've brought it all the way off to that wall. New Zealand, however, quickly getting the numbers back down and pushing it back into the Australian defence. Looks like they're going to try to take it back all the way into that corner, though. Just like they have done. The last 3 goals they've scored have all come out of that New Zealand attacking corner. Definitely not afraid to just push their advantage where they got it. And New Zealand looked like they had the chance at goal there, but the last Australian back getting down. Lots more Australians down now. Lots of New Zealanders down as well. It looks like they managed to just force it into the corner there. The referees are calling a timeout. Not sure what they'll think of that. I couldn't really see what was going on. Unfortunately, the opposite corner here, from where our cameras are, very hard to see what's going on when there's this much defence down for the Australians. But yeah, it looked like multiple Australians down in defence. But the New Zealanders might have just had the strength, and it looks like it's going to be called no goal. A barging call against New Zealand, just getting a bit too physical into the corner of that goal tray. Australia taking the puck now, swimming it off to the near side wall for them, far side wall for us, and flicking it down that wall. Not sure if they're going to maintain advantage here though. New Zealand looked like they might have gotten it. But no, Australia managed to corral them back onto the wall. New Zealand here really pushing it back into the corner again. Australia, they have been struggling to get it out of this corner. And it looks like New Zealand very close to the goal again here. This one might go in. Everyone's still down. The referee's got his hands in the air, and it's going to be a penalty. Yeah, too much gloving from the Australian defence there. That close to goal, that's definitely going to be a penalty shot for New Zealand. We'll see just in a minute who New Zealand opts to take this penalty. It looks like number 12 from Australia, Vice-Captain Maggie Biffin, is going to be defending this. And it's number 3 and number 5 from New Zealand. That's Anastasia Byrne and Olivia Houston, captain and vice-captain. And everyone's on the bottom now. The flick goes through. That's a terrible flick, though. I'm not sure what's happened. Breaking. They've called breaking against New Zealand. Looks like New Zealand was down too early, and maybe she knew it. Maybe that flick didn't go off the way she hoped. They might give the team a chance to reset, though, now. It looks like both teams actually broke, so they're just going to reset this penalty. And Australia down very early. New Zealand, the flick goes through. It looks like it's been knocked down, and it's curled out by Maggie Biffin from Australia. Curled all the way out. The referee's got her hand in the air. Not sure if that catch was allowed. No goal. Looks like great defense by the Australians. And New Zealand not flicking to their advantage, thinking they could sneak a flick around the outside. And Australia, great knockdown, great curl. Really, not the aggression New Zealand wanted there on that 2-on-1. You've really got to be committed to swim in and hit the double team. Otherwise, you just give the defender too much time to get their body in between you and the puck. And that's exactly what happened here for number 12, Maggie Biffin from Australia. The New Zealanders do not look happy, but the referees have decided that was a very fair knockdown. And now the puck will be returned to the middle of the pool for another strike. Great defense from Australia. Bad luck, New Zealand. And the score remains 3 to New Zealand, 1 Australia. Very close on this strike here. Looks like it's just going to be forced out to that side wall. Looks like a bit of a push from Australia, but they're not going very far before New Zealand turn the tide against them and push back. Australia now initiating a nice little switch. Lots of New Zealanders on the outside. Australia opts to go on the inside. Looks like New Zealanders have managed to steal the puck, and they've got the woman over the top. Is that the last? Yeah, 2 New Zealanders, no Australian. Very easy goal for New Zealand. And you really, if you're trying to switch the puck across, you cannot hesitate. You've got to commit. Got to go all the way. Number 2 from New Zealand, Ashley Samuels, just manages to sneak over the top there and steal that puck off the Australians and get a clear run at goal. Very good work in New Zealand, spotting the weakness there in the Australian. A bit of a hesitancy too, I guess, in the Australian switch. Just not ready to commit, and they've been punished for it here. That's 4 goals New Zealand, 1 to Australia. And they're off again. Looks like, very close. Australia just getting there first. Spills to Australia's favour, but they've curled it back in the middle.
Sure
New Zealand stealing that puck straight off them.
Alright, we're doing that.
And a flick past finds the mark, and
Now we
New
go
Zealand
out
past that Australian defender. Just going out of sight of our cameras here. Looks like the drive's been stalled though by the Australian defence.
Slow down the upload. Yep.
New Zealand swerves into the middle, but Australia manages to rip the curl. New Zealand got the numbers, keeps that drive going, and looks like Australia are going to clear it off to their own corner here. Good drive by New Zealand.
We'll see how we go.
Australia just managing to defend back to their corner. Australia now rotating in that corner. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to break out unless they get more numbers down. And the girls seem a little bit tired here, not willing to stay down for those double efforts. Very lax half back there. There's always going to be a lot of New Zealanders down around that corner, and Australia just not looking to see where their support was. Looks like they can manage keeping it out there on the wing. It looks like he's going to keep rotating, maybe hoping for a ref call to break this out, because it doesn't look like they're making any effort to get it out of this corner. Just rotating it and rotating it into the corner. We do have like 4.5 minutes left here.
Yeah. Is this still? Yeah. So that's still picking up. So we can have 2 commentators when that time. Get some banter going. Yeah.
Claudes, if you want to step in.
A little bit longer than I thought. Yeah, there is a little over 6 minutes left, and it looks like the Australians' defense plan has worked out. The New Zealanders, maybe getting a bit frustrated, have committed a chopping foul against Australia, pushing it out against the New Zealand team. And New Zealand ready to set up here. We'll see if they can turn around this free. They've had a lot of aggression in this game already. Of course, the score's showing it as well. 4 goals to New Zealand, only 1 for Australia. And it looks like a timeout's been called. Not quite sure who called that timeout. Possibly Australia, because they pulled all their players off the sub-bench to have a chat with the coach. New Zealand getting ready to set up their line of defense against this free puck. Yeah, I'm going to assume that was an Australian call there for the free. And it looks like Australia's signalling not very sneakily that they're planning on bringing it out into the centre. We'll see if that's in fact a ruse. But very clear hand gestures from Australia. Looks like they want to keep it away from this wall. It looks like it was a ruse as they go straight into the middle there. Maybe I was just misinterpreting the hand signals from the bench. Australia busting through this New Zealand line. Forced to the wall though, and New Zealand getting down there, stealing off those Australian curls. Australia pushing it into the middle. I'm not quite sure who has possession of the puck. Looks like New Zealand's got it now though, and they're flicking, trying to get that drive on. Spills out the back, and Australia's got possession, but it's going to be a call against New Zealand. A bit too much body there. That was an obstruction call or barging call against New Zealand. Pushing it back against the New Zealanders now. And now the Australians using their timeouts. That last timeout must have been called by the New Zealanders. Maybe just to set up their line of defense. So now Australia, maybe the coach thinks that going straight into that New Zealand line of defense isn't the best way to go. And instead, wants his girls to go out on a bit of an angle and try to find a bit of space. Australia doing a pretty reasonable job of working their switches, except for that one disastrous spoil by the New Zealanders that got them that last goal. If Australia can keep working that outside, they might be able to find a bit of room to break down the wing. Just gotta believe in yourself, I guess, and not stop halfway across the pool. That's always a bad sign. Australia going to take this free puck. Looks like Maggie Biffin taking it again for Australia. Everyone about to get down to count down the last couple of seconds in this timeout. And it looks like Australia is up with the halfback take this one, and yeah, here they go all the way across the pool, saying that running straight into the wall of New Zealand is not the best option at this point in time. It's gone onto the wall now, lots of bodies down, everyone wanting to get the advantage for their team in this push down the wall. New Zealand looked like they might have got it though. Pushed inside, but stolen by the Australian. Australia punches through and just lands on the New Zealand bat. New Zealand here. But the buzzer, I think the buzzer went off before that goal went in. No goal. And it's going to be a chopping call against New Zealand. Bit of luck here for Australia as New Zealand manages to get the numbers back a lot quicker than Australia can. And as the puck gets punched through by the Australian defence, there's always another New Zealander to go to pick it up. Good work, New Zealand. Good defence by Australia, managing to get that foul against New Zealand. I'm not sure what's going on here. Looks like the referees have called timeout. And it's a subbing foul against Australia. Australia down to 5 in the water. Number 1 for Australia sent out here. Of course, with subbing fouls, it's always hard to tell. Ooh. And a New Zealander also sent out. I'm not sure if this was a subbing foul. No, I'm being told it was. So both teams there getting a player kicked out. Number 7 from New Zealand. I have the team sheets just in front of me here. Number 7 for New Zealand, Emily Caulfield, and number 2 from Australia, Isabel Dunn. But Australia now on the run. Looks like they've got the outside. A big flick in. I'm not sure if it's gone in. Looks like New Zealand might have just been able to defend. The referees are playing advantage, though. That doesn't look good for New Zealand. And they've got their hand in the air. Penalty for Australia. That was, yes, the New Zealander there stopped that big flick with their glove right on the end of the goal tray. So New Zealand going to be defending a penalty goal here. Or a penalty shot, rather. Number 12 and number 2 for Australia. Jade Boyle and Maggie Biffin. Oh, sorry, Isabel Dunn, Maggie Biffin taking this one, but they're already off. And it looks like New Zealand might be able to defend these. Australia curls around. The first stop was thwarted. And New Zealand just has the edge on the outside. Can she push it all the way out? And it looks like the refs are calling it
It's a goal.
Goal. Bit of discussion among the refs here, actually. Both refs, it looks like, saw a bit of gloving, but one thought that the New Zealand player gloved it, one thought the Australian player gloved it. Of course, it'll matter which one happened first. If the New Zealand glove happened first, that'll be a goal for Australia. But if the Australian gloved it first, that'll be a successful save by New Zealand. And very tight work on these penalties by both teams. Really good stuff. Managing to defend, and it looks like the referees have decided to call it a goal. Oh, and we've just lost our lights here. Okay, they're back. That's good. And we didn't lose any power to our cameras. No goal! New Zealand successfully defend. Bad luck, Australia. But great defense from number 10, New Zealand. Phoenix, the great defense by her. I'm not sure what the refs are talking about. Obviously, the New Zealander managed to stop that original flick in, and then the Australians gloved it in on their second attempt. But great defense from New Zealand, and the score remains 4-1, I believe. New Zealand leading. New Zealand getting this puck first. re-energized after their minute or so break while their teammate defended that goal, and pushing it very hard into Australian defence. Australian do manage to clear it to the wall though. And Australia now looks like they've got a bit of possession and they're swinging it all the way across. Good screen from New Zealand though. Not ready for a second one. The flick, just not able to follow up on that flick quickly enough. It goes to New Zealand, but New Zealand pushing it straight back through onto the Australian defence. And New Zealand now, multiple numbers on the bottom, crashing into that wall. Really looking for the drive. Right underneath the Australian sub-bench though, so we'll see if the fresh Australian numbers can stop this. Number 5 in the middle for Australia there. Really wants that pass, and it looks like her teammate, yes, we'll give it to her. Australia into the middle of the pool now. Looks like New Zealand desperately wanting to stop this though. Australia looks like they've managed to take it all the way across under heavy pressure from New Zealand. Not even sure who has possession at the moment. And it looks like it'll go all the way across that wall. Australia not able to capitalise this into a drive. And it looks like New Zealand have got enough possession to start a drive down that far wall from the cameras. And they're bringing it back into the middle now. Obviously, I think they've got enough numbers to start this drive. Australia curls them off back to the wall. But the refs have called. It's going to be against Australia here. Maybe that curl wasn't quite legal. And New Zealand setting up just past their halfway line now. Going to take this puck. We'll see what they want to do. It looks like they're just planning on taking it straight into the wall. Saying we've got the numbers and the drive to take it down this wall against the Australian squad. And it looks like they might be right, pushing it all the way towards the corner. Australia stopping them just outside of that corner. And Australia really have struggled so far this game to stop the New Zealand drive out of the corner. So once it gets in there, it seems pretty hard. However, it doesn't look like they're going to let them get in there this time. Ooh, so much back and forth. This game's getting quite hard to call, especially when it's so far away from the cameras. Looks like New Zealand have managed to solidify it into that corner though. We'll see if Australia can do a better job of getting it out there this time. Of course, last time it was this close to the Australian corner, they just kept playing the defensive game and waited for a ref score. Very easy to do an accidental foul in the corner. It looks like New Zealand, they've found the outside, they've got the double team. It doesn't look like Australia's going to be able to defend. Great piece of work from New Zealand there. Double teaming that last Australian back. And number 8 from New Zealand. Number 8, Jade Beckman, scoring that goal. Really good work from New Zealand, getting the outside player and then coming through on the inside to capitalise, putting that goal in. And there are a couple minutes left now in this game as New Zealand really take advantage. Ooh, a couple minutes, I might have been over-exaggerating. There's only 20 seconds left. And the score is 5 to New Zealand and 1 to Australia as we count down the last couple of seconds of this game. Great work from this New Zealand team, really capitalising on their play in the corner of the goal tray and down those side walls and back wall. And that's going to be the full-time buzzer. New Zealand Obsidian team 5, Australian A team 1. Great work from both these teams. Very exciting match. Multiple penalties saved. Not something you see every day. And we're just going to take a quick break to reset the stream. We'll be back in a couple of minutes with the under-18 women's New Zealand Diamond team against the Australian B team. Stay with us.
Yeah, I'll turn that off. God, that was quick.
Hey guys, we're back here with the next game, Australian under-18 B women's team in white and the New Zealand under-18 women's diamond team in black. And the score of our last game was 5 for New Zealand, 1 Australia.